Warning, the following program is designed for casual wrestling fans and is meant purely for entertainment. If you're SAWFT, proceed at your own risk. Viewer discretion is advised.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
What is good, everybody? It is your boy WETOODEEP, and we are back with another episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling Podcast. I know you're like, what? I know you guys are fiending for it. Where's this episode? Where's it at? Work schedule changed this week, so I completely forgot that it did change on Tuesday, so that's why I didn't mention it. So I do apologize about that. But we got you this episode. It is a beautiful Saturday morning that I'm recording this. We got a lot to talk about in the wrestling world. We're going to talk about Rhea losing the title, what I feel about that, what I feel about how the direction they're taking Rhea. I got some, we're ranting about some stuff, right? We got the AEW fans pissed off again because WWE loads up a weekend in May with Battleground, Saturday Night Main Event, and Raw in Tampa. We'll talk about that. We got some news that WWE might be doing another Evolution pay-per-view. We'll talk about that. Pat McAfee's receiving death threats. We'll talk about that. We got a crazy take in the IWC that Dirty D just covered on his show yesterday, but I'm going to talk about it as well, revolving the Queen, Bianca Belair. And then we'll go over our normal rest of the show with NXT. We're going to talk about Evolve, the first episode, what I thought about that. And then we're going to react to Carmella. Our react to that segment is Carmella and her sort of, I guess you could say, drama that she stirred up on social media. But before we get into all of that, we're going to open up the show. This wasn't planned until quite literally 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon. This week must be Piss We Too Deep Off week. And Triple H, we're going to talk a lot about how you've pissed me off this week in the Rhea Ripley segment. But you're not enemy number one this week. No more. No. There's a man. This is a non-wrestling rant, by the way, so if you're not a hockey fan, you're probably not going to quite understand it. But let me get this off my chest. There's a man who, as far as I'm aware, is still alive in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, who, if he's not sleeping with one eye open, he better, because this man, Don Sweeney, has made public enemy number one of all Boston sports fans. So let me tell you why. You're kidding me, right, Dear Don Sweeney? Are you kidding me? Brad Marchand, the Brad Marchand, has given everything to the Boston Bruins. He has bled black and gold. He has played with grit, with heart and passion every single night, and was a cornerstone of this franchise for almost 2 decades. And Don Sweeney, this fraud, this absolute criminal, decides the best way to repay him is to ship him off to Florida. Florida, the retirement home of the NHL. The absolute definition of hockey irrelevance until about 5 minutes ago. The biggest rival of the Boston Bruins, the team that the fan base hates more than anyone else, the team that's eliminated us from the playoffs the last 2 years. You're going to send our captain, the best player on our team, the cornerstone of this roster, you're going to send him to the team we hate the most? Now, this isn't just a bad move. This is betrayal. Marchand wasn't just a player. He was the soul of the team. He played through injuries. He took heat from the imposing fan bases and embraced being the guy you love to hate. Well, unless, of course, he's on your team. I can't wait to see these Florida Panther fans who for the last 2 seasons have hated on Brad Marchand. But now you got to cheer for him. I can't wait for you to run back everything you've said the last 2 years. And now Boston Bruins fans, we're just supposed to accept that he's gone? Don Sweeney. This Don Sweeney, who's been botching major moves for years, just hands Brad Marchand to a division rival of all places. It's not only a slap in the face to us fans, it is a complete disregard for everything that Marchand is. But let's not forget, this is the same Don Sweeney who traded away Tyler Seguin because he didn't fit some imaginary Bruins culture, and who wasted 3 straight first-round picks back in 2005. We had 3 first-round picks in 2015 and got 0 talent out of it. Maybe Brusky, maybe DeBrusque, but you didn't even re-sign him. You done sent him off to Vancouver. Now he has the audacity to move Marchand, our captain, our leader, to a team that we despise. If there were ever a reason to run this guy out of town on a rail, this is it. Now, look, I don't care that Marchand is 37, or if this was some so-called business decision. You don't trade your heart and soul. You don't insult a man who's dedicated his entire career to Boston by sending him to Florida. This is worse than an insult. Like I said, this is a betrayal to every Bruins fan who has bled for this team. Now, Brad, I want to speak to Brad Marchand. Thank you. The fans love you. We respect you, even if management doesn't. Your legacy isn't defined by some decisions made in boardrooms. It's defined by every moment you left it all on the ice for us. We appreciate you. We respect you. And we'll always stand behind you, no matter what. Thank you for 2011. You were the last piece of that Stanley Cup winning roster. Thank you. But back to Sweeney. And we're going to add Cam Neely into this, the front office. Shame on you. Shame on you for disrespecting a franchise legend, for gutting the very identity of the team, and for continuously making decisions that betray the passion and loyalty of the fan base. You've proven time and time again that you don't understand what it means to be a Boston Bruin. You don't value the heart, the grit, the sacrifice that players like Brad Marchand embodied every single night. This isn't just mismanagement. This is outright negligence. So from the bottom of our hearts, from every fan who has lived and died with this team, from every person who believes still in what the Boston Bruins should stand for, fuck you. And now we move on to the wrestling. And I got another little rant. This is a rant episode. That's what Fridays are for, right? That's what Fridays are for, right? So this next rant is dedicated to every fan. Every fan over the last month or so that said WWE is too predictable. You're the fans that caused this unpredictability right now. And I got something. Let me tell you something. All the products to predictability in wrestling is not a bad thing. And I'm tired of people acting like if they can see something coming, that it automatically makes that bad booking. No. Bad booking makes things bad. Predictability is just storytelling done right. Look at the best movies, TV shows, and if you read novels, the best novels of all time. Most of the time, you know what is coming, and it still hits because the execution is on point. I guarantee it, you've never watched Rocky and think, oh man, this movie sucks, because I knew he was going to go the distance. Now, you're invested in the journey. If you've ever watched a crime novel or read a crime novel or watched a crime show like NCIS or CSI or the FBI's or Chicago PD, if you've ever watched one of those shows, I don't know if you watch them like I do. Those are my favorite type of shows, by the way. I don't know if you watch them like I do, but I sit there and I'm trying to piece together all the evidence they're showing me and trying to guess who the bad guy is before we get there. That doesn't mean that the book or the show is trash. It just means that the writer or the producer has laid the groundwork well enough that you pick up on the clues. Wrestling is no different. When you build a baby face properly and you build the heel to a place where the heel has done enough damage and is a believable character, the audience wants the obvious payoff. Go back to WrestleMania 30. Was there any doubt in anyone's mind that Daniel Bryan was going to win the title? No. But would anyone in their right mind said that that was a bad moment because it was predictable? Absolutely not. The moment was electric because the story made sense and we were emotionally invested. The problem isn't predictability. It's when a predictable outcome isn't earned. If you shove someone down our throats without the proper build, like Roman Reigns in 2015, then yeah, it feels forced. But when things fall into place naturally, that's just good storytelling. The problem with wrestling today isn't that things are predictable, but rather is that companies hot shot angles with zero build and they swerve just for the sake of swerving. And at the end of the day, wrestling is about getting people emotionally invested. If fans are chanting for something and they actually get it, that's not a failure. It's a reward. Predictability isn't bad. Lazy, uninspired booking is. Give me a well-told, predictable story over cheap shock value swerves all day long. Any day of the week. But let's go deeper. Shock value booking and swerving for the sake of being unpredictable is not just bad, it's lazy. Now, this is the type of booking I feel Triple H does at times. It's lazy. There's this modern toxic mindset in modern wrestling that if fans can predict the outcome, then the story must be bad. So what do? They throw in some ridiculous last-minute twist that makes no sense just to swerve the marks. But here's the thing. When you book that way, you aren't creating a great story. You're throwing nonsense at a wall and hoping that it sticks. Unpredictability doesn't automatically mean good storytelling. If anything, constant unpredictability makes fans check out because they realize nothing matters. If everything is a swerve, then nothing means anything. Why get invested in a babyface's journey when they can just randomly turn heel and just because the booker wants to shock the audience? Why believe in a championship chase when the outcome will be some contrived nonsense that swerves expectation? Wrestling is built on long-term storytelling. It's about the investment. When fans see the pieces coming together, it's not because they're too smart for the product. It's because the storyline is working. When a heel gets heat the right way and a babyface overcomes them in a satisfying payoff, that's not a bad thing. That's storytelling 101. Now, don't get me wrong. The occasional surprise is great when done correctly. A well-timed twist can elevate a story. Example being Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. That elevated that story, was something no one saw coming, and ended up creating quite possibly the two great characters in Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. But those were good because those moments were earned. They weren't just for the sake of gotcha booking. Now compare that to like WWE in the mid 2010s, where or Vince Russo's WCW, where things were just being thrown on the wall, nothing stuck, and if it didn't stick, we would just try something new, right? That type of booking doesn't create excitement, it creates exhaustion. At the end of the day, shock booking is lazy booking. It's what bookers do when they don't have a real plan. Anyone can throw out a random swerve, but it takes skill to craft a story that has a clear destination and still keeps people engaged. Fans don't hate predictability. They hate boring wrestling. And if a story is well executed, fans will love it, even if they saw the outcome coming from a mile away. Which brings me to Rhea Ripley losing the title on Monday night. Right? Because John Cena's little shock turn, that was an earned moment. That wasn't that was a good swerve. Rhea Ripley losing the title on Monday night, just for the sake of losing the title on a Monday night, that is bad. So like, Triple H did good, right? So let me tell you, I had a lot of excitement coming into WrestleMania season post-Elimination Chamber. Cena turning heel was the biggest shock this generation has seen. I will agree with Eric Bischoff, nowhere near as close of the impact on the wrestling world that Hogan had when he turned. Because Hogan, like I said on Tuesday, Hogan's turn created, in essence, the Attitude Era, because Vince McMahon and WWE had to find a way to counter-react to what the NWO were doing. Because that's part of the reason 83 weeks happened, right? John Cena's turn's nowhere near as close to that impact on the industry, but it's still one of the greatest things to happen in the business because we never saw that happen. That was a good swerve. The swerve that pisses me off is Rhea Ripley losing the title, and here's why. Random title changes on a weekly television show just for the shock value is one of the dumbest things a wrestling company can do. It doesn't make Monday Night Raw or any weekly show for that matter must watch. Just makes the titles meaningless. And when you've done it twice in 56 days, it's just not exciting anymore. It's a sign that you have no long-term plan, and you're just throwing things at the wall to pop a short-term rating. Or you're trying to outsmart the marks, and you don't act like... A lot of people are going to say that I'm feeling this way because Rhea versus Bianca isn't happening one-on-one. And that's part of the reason. That's a money-making match, right? But I'm also concerned because championships are supposed to mean something. They're supposed to be the culmination of months, sometimes even years of storytelling. And when a title switches hands at random, especially outside of a major feud or pay-per-view match, it doesn't feel like a big deal. It just feels like a cheap trick. Instead of elevating the champion, it devalues both the title and the reign. Let me give you an example. Right? When a company does back-to-back hot potato booking, it doesn't create excitement. It creates apathy. Let me give you an example. When the WWE Women's World Champion, which eventually became the Raw Women's Championship, right? When that was created, WrestleMania 32. Within so that was April when the title was created, with first won by Charlotte. From April till December of that year, which I believe was 2016, from April, well, maybe it was 2018. It was 32. No, it would have been 16 because 17 was the year I went in, was the year before. Okay, so yeah, so April of 2016 to December of 2016, that title swapped places between Charlotte and Sasha Banks 7 times in 8 months. Sasha Banks won the title 3 times at a Monday Night Raw. I was at one of them. Never once during any of those reigns did that belt feel important. Sasha Banks never held the title for longer than 27 days. Within the first year of that belt's existence, so from Mania 32 to Mania 33, there were 12 title changes. No one cared about that belt or the reign. Go back to that time in wrestling history. No one cared. Why? Because it was just hot potato. Why did Gunther's Intercontinental Championship reign feel important? Because every time you stepped in the ring with Gunther in his title reign, he won so many matches and against so many good wrestlers. That the outcome was almost guaranteed that Gunther would win. And there was prestige in the belt and in that reign in and of itself, that whoever beat him was going to get a push. It elevated the title. If I as a fan see title changes weekly on Raw, I'm not thinking, wow, I need to watch this every week because anything can happen. Because that's what and I know I'm part of the casual community, but I feel like the more hardcore casual fans feel like these title changes make people think, wow, things can happen at any time I need to watch this. But that's not what happens. What I'm thinking is, well, this belt clearly doesn't matter. So why should I care about who's holding it? When was the last time a random TV title change actually matters. They get forgotten almost instantly. Titles need stability to have value. When a champion holds the belt for a long time, it makes every defense feel like a big deal. It creates tension, it makes challengers look like threats, and it builds excitement for the eventual payoff. That's why guys with long reigns, like Roman Reigns and Gunther, and hell, even if we go over to AEW, Orange Cassidy had a really long run. I believe it was the Continental Championship. I could be wrong. But he was doing open challenges every single week. It was part of the reason I started to get into Orange Cassidy, because I hated him at the beginning. But that title run made him a superstar to me, right? It worked because every match meant something. When you hot potato a title every few weeks, it kills any credibility that a champion could have. Wrestling is not MMA. Because the argument that's always used is like, well, in MMA, the title switch hands like every 2 months. Well, that's because that's a real fight. They're not actually trying to tell stories in the UFC. That's not the purpose. The purpose is just the fight. In WWE, you're telling stories. You need to give credibility to the champions. If you want to make Raw must watch, you don't do it by tossing championships around like participation trophies. You do it by telling compelling week-to-week stories that build towards PLEs, and that's where the big title changes happen, when the fans are willing to pay for the payoff, for the moment. If you're just handing out title changes on TV for free, then what is the point of ever tuning into a premium live event? And so Dirty D made a statement in his podcast yesterday that he just released that I disagree with. And I disagree with a lot of what he says. And that disagreement is that WWE makes movies every time that they roll the camera. And I get what he's trying to say, but that's not exactly the point I would try to convey. Because if every show is a movie, then none of them feel important, right? So that's why I've always said that the between, we just had Elimination Chamber, right? So the weekly shows between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania are a season of shows, right? So think of your favorite TV show. They typically do like 8 to 12 episodes a season, right? Or right? And so if you think about it, we get about 8 shows between each PLE, if you consider Raw and SmackDowns. Now, each one of those shows, are the weeks between the PLEs are a season of television, with the PLE being the season finale. And it's right. And so essentially WWE does 12 seasons of something within a year's time, right? That's how I look at wrestling, right? And the payoff should happen at the premium live event, the big event, the big moments, right? Every season finale, if you're watching a show, the season finale has big things happen, the buildup of the episodes leading up to the season finale. And the reason for episode 1 and episode 2 and episode 3 is to set up the next story for the season coming up, and then episode 4 and episode 5, and it's all to give you clues at what's happening, with the final payoff being right. And so not every episode, Monday Night Raw is not a movie, it's an episode that's supposed to give you clues to the next episode, which gives you clues to the next episode, which gives you clues to the next episode, which gives you clues for the payoff at the PLE. So by cheapening titles and giving them away on TV, you're cheapening PLEs. They mean nothing now. If you're just going to flip-flop hot potato championship, Right? At the end of the day, titles are props. I've said this, and I know that's what you're going to say. Why do you care so much about title changes if they're just props? No, titles are props, but they're props that are supposed to mean something. When the championship doesn't feel important, it becomes meaningless. When the title as a prop has no meaning, neither does the story it's involved in. If the belt is just a prop that gets passed around randomly, then why should the fans care about who holds it? Championships add stakes to a storyline. It's not just to be used as a cheap plot device to manufacture moments that won't matter in a month. So I'm done with pre-written rants. I wanted to get all of that out. Let me explain this more thoroughly. Rhea Ripley losing the title to Io Sky 56 or some odd days after she just won it off Liv Morgan, just to turn around and change the title at WrestleMania when Bianca Belair will win the championship. What are we doing, Triple H? What are we doing? This adds nothing to the match. You're not ever going to convince me that Io Sky coming into this match as champion makes this match better when it's going to be, right? You're never going to convince me that a triple threat match is the better match. Again, I said this. Triple H uses triple threat matches because he's lazy. He's lazy. It's a lazy way to avoid doing clean finishes. What do I mean by that? Because here's what I think is going to happen. I think Asuka's coming back, and I think she's going to cost Io Sky the championship. And the only way this happens is if it's a triple threat and Asuka can physically attack Io Sky. But that's not what the fans want to see. You can do that return on a Monday Night Raw. What the fans want to see is two titans of the industry. Probably, in my book, 1A and 1B best in women's wrestling right now, Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, going against each other on the biggest stage of them all for the championship. That's what we wanted. No one wanted Io Sky involved in this match, except for the weird wrestling marks that have the hard-on for Asian culture and Japanese wrestling and anime and all of that bullshit. They may like Io Sky, but Io Sky is not mass appeal to a bigger audience. You know who is? Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. This makes no sense to me. Makes zero sense. And does Rhea Ripley, now that she lost her title, she did a backstage interview where she's talking about she's lonely, she's alone, and she's her own worst enemy. And are we doing this template again? We're gonna Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley. We're gonna sympathy book Rhea Ripley. We're going to sympathy book Rhea Ripley. Really? And Dirty D said something. I bring him back because that was the last wrestling podcast that I listened to. And he said some things in there that I disagree with. He said, if the template works, don't stop using it. And I disagree because it doesn't work for every single person. It doesn't work for every single person. Not every babyface needs to be some cookie cutter, sympathetic underdog who fights from underneath every single match. Not every babyface needs to have some sort of relate to the crowd sympathy. It worked for Cody and it was great, and that's Cody's character and it worked and it made him unique. But when you do it for Jey Uso, now I can't tell the difference between Jey and Cody. When you do it for Tiffany Stratton, and now you're going to do it for Rhea Ripley, right? But some of the best good guys connect because of personality and authenticity, and not some cookie cutter, we got sympathy. Stone Cold Steve Austin's the best example. He wasn't an underdog. He was a no-nonsense, beer-drinking badass who took the fight to the enemy. The Rock wasn't some helpless victim begging for sympathy. He was the cocky, electrifying, and completely owned the room. Even John Cena. John Cena was never built on sympathy. It was always hustle, loyalty, and respect. It wasn't a sob story. Yet today, so many baby faces are shoved into the same mold. They get beat down every week. They suffer. They scratch and claw. And we're supposed to cheer for them because they survive? No, give me a babyface who actually feels like a star, who wins because they're great, who stands tall and owns their success. Some babyfaces should be dominant. Some should be cocky but lovable. Some should be wild and unpredictable like Stone Cold. Like Dean Ambrose was. Tiffany Stratton was a college gymnast, was a weightlifter, a successful weightlifter, and got in this business because her parents wanted her in the business, right? She wasn't she doesn't connect because someone who wasn't a fan got into. No. She loved the business. Her parents wanted her in the business. Her parents spent good money to have Vern Gagne, one of the greatest wrestlers of his generation, train her, found Mr. Anderson to train her so that she could do her tryout and be successful at this. She should earn her success. She should own her success. She shouldn't be getting beat up all the time, having Charlotte stand over her. And then we complete the babyface turn by having her go to Canada, teaming with Trish Stratus, and that's supposed to make me feel for her? No. You know what I like Tiffany Stratton? Because she's strong. She's a little bit she dominates. She could be a bad bitch. Because that's what she is. Rhea Ripley is not sympathetic. Rhea Ripley's the greatest women's wrestler on the planet. I don't feel bad for her. Everyone's like, oh, well, she lost her title and she lost her friends and she lost her boyfriend. Yeah, the whole point of that story ended in January when she won the title back. You've done nothing for her to benefit that in 56 days except for take her title and now try to make her sympathetic because she's her own worst enemy. No, it's bad, lazy booking, dude. What are we doing, Triple H? If every good guy is just another sympathy product, none of them feel special. We'll have an entire roster full of sympathy tropes. We should have a roster of variety, of personalities that feel different from one another. Supposed to be the larger-than-life characters, not some template that gets pushed on everyone you want to make a baby face. Are we really trying to sympathy book Rhea Ripley right now? Are we really trying to sympathy book Tiffany Stratton, who debuted in 2021 and in 4 years has dominated the WWE to where she's NXT champion, she's Money in the Bank winner, she's a women's champion on the main roster in 4 years. Her storyline, like I've said before, should be Charlotte. Look at what I've done in 4 years compared to that to you 4 years into your career. I'm better than you, Charlotte, and I'll prove it. That would be interesting storyline. But instead, you just get this blah. Like the match doesn't even feel important like it should be. And in booking Tiffany Stratton this way, to where now I got to feel sympathetic for her, you're really hurting the story. This should have been a battle of two bad bitches. Who's the baddest bitch here? Who's the best? Is it whose legacy is going to mean more? So that when Tiffany wins, because guys, I promise you, if Tiffany Stratton, this may go down as the worst WrestleMania to me, because I have a feeling they're going to piss me off a lot. You're overdoing it. If Tiffany Stratton loses this match, I think it hurts her more than it helps her. I do. I just don't see how that benefits Tiffany Stratton. She's already loved by the fans. We don't have to do a Cody Rhodes 365-day buildup from the ashes of Tiffany Stratton. And we damn sure don't need to do it for Rhea Ripley. The fuck are we doing? It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. Now, WWE is, at the top of their game, and AEW fans are all pissed off because was it Double or Nothing weekend, which they run the same weekend I think it's May 25th this year. WWE loaded up that weekend with a Saturday night's main event, with a NXT Battleground, and with a Monday Night Raw, which tells me Battleground is going to be on Sunday. Which I'm not too. I mean, I guess I'm kind of happy with. That's fine. Yeah. So you'll have Monday Night Raw the 26th, Battleground the 25th, and Saturday Night Main Event the 24th of May in Tampa, Florida. And the AEW fans are mad because WWE, they're trying to steal our weekend. Guys, you don't own a weekend. WWE is just running business. Welcome to the business of wrestling. That's literally all I got to say about this. Welcome to the business of wrestling. You don't own the weekend. Other companies can run events. And I don't see the big deal of them running. I personally just don't see how this is negative, right? I don't. It's just too, especially if this is why I don't believe AEW fans when they say that AEW is not competing, right? Because if you're not competing, then this shouldn't matter to you. This is just another company running a show, but it matters to you because you know it's going to take viewership away from your show. It matters to you because you know that that it is competition, and your numbers are going to look bad. And that's kind of the whole point. It's smart by WWE to do this. I mean, it is what it is. Like I don't see what the big deal is. I don't. We all know that Saturday night main events are just house shows that don't mean nothing. Battleground's your real competition, And it's going to be better than you no matter what. No matter what day it would have been on, it would have been better. Right? I don't know. I don't got much to say about it. I just wanted to touch on it. I think it's crazy that AEW fans think that no one else should run shows on the same weekend that you run shows, when literally every show, every big company in the world, or at least in America, let's be fair and say in America, every major promotion in America is going to be in Las Vegas WrestleMania weekend, right? In the same city, WrestleMania weekend, to run a show. And no one complains from WWE, because that's business. You go where the wrestling fans are. But we're in a completely different city, on the other side of the country, mind you. I don't see a big deal here. I just don't. Moving on to other news. It is believed that WWE is going to announce that they are running another Evolution women's only pay-per-view PLE event. First off, this one has this will be better than the first one. And I say that because the women's roster is better than we had on the first one. I think this is a wonderful thing to be doing. And I think it's about time we got another one. I used to be of the mindset that like women's only shows wouldn't draw audiences. But I think it does. I think it would. I do. I think if you do these like once a year, they can't be like every 3 months or whatever. But I think if you do one women's only PLE a year, I think it'll draw an audience. I do. I'm excited for it. Just some of the matches you could get out from it would be fun to watch, especially if they include like the NXT roster, where you do like the 2 women's champions, the 2 mid-card champions on the main roster, maybe, right? And you do have 5 champions. So you could championships on the main roster for the women. So you could just do 5 matches. But I would love to see like a women's NXT match as well for one of the titles. I think you can involve a lot of people there from NXT as well. It's not going to be no 10-match event. It'll be a 5-match event. So it'll depend on all of that, but I would be highly ecstatic if this is reality. And yeah. All right. Other story, Pat McAfee is catching some heat. He's getting death threats for his commentary at Elimination Chamber, and he threw out an apology video on Monday on his show. Here's my thing. I don't personally think he should have apologized. I don't personally think he did anything wrong. I mean, I'll say this. I understand there are political tensions to why the Canadians boo the American national anthem, but none of that changes because you boo the national anthem at a wrestling show or at a hockey game. None of that changes. Protest to your government, protest some other way. Don't protest at a sporting event. That's crazy, because that doesn't change anything. And I think Pat McAfee, as an American, I think, but more so as a human being, I think it's highly disrespectful to boo any country's national anthem. I do. Because that's disrespect to the country. And I may not like your politics of your country, but I think there's a difference between, hey, the people in WWE have very little say in the government, right? And they're not the ones doing the things you don't like. The people of the country have zero really to do with the policies. I just don't understand why you boo the national anthem in the first place. And then to get mad because Pat McAfee, as an American, found it a little bit offensive. that you send death threats like bro, that's crazy. I don't think Pat should have apologized, because what apologizing does is admit that you were wrong and that the people who are sending you death threats are correct. Come on now, Pat. You shouldn't have apologized. That's just me. Right? We got a tweet that I sent it over to Dirty D. He talked about it, but I want to talk about this as well. A tweet, and it's going to go back to what I said earlier. Said that Bianca Belair is the most over-pushed woman. And now, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not going to read the tweet and all of that. Basically, the thing is that Bianca Belair is always in title pictures when she doesn't have to be. I see so much Bianca hate on the internet that she's overrated and overpushed and she can't talk. And guys, what the? Are you watching the same product that I'm watching? Are you? Bianca Belair. I'm gonna be objective. I'm not gonna be biased. She's the second best wrestler in the company, which means she's the second best wrestler in the world in the women's division, with Rhea Ripley being right in front of her. And it's a close one. But she has a look. She's athletic. I don't know what you're listening to, but I think she's really good on the mic. She's good in the ring. She connects with the audience. Overbooked? You mean for the last 2 years she's been out of a title picture? That means something. She's been carrying the women's tag division. She's so good at her job that they pair her with Jade Cargill to help her get over. And you say she's overbooked and overpushed? Can I be honest? Overpushed is Io Sky. What does Io Sky bring to the WWE that no one else on the roster has right now? Nothing. She's sloppy. Oh, she's a high flyer. Yet every time she climbs up on the fucking third rope, it feels like she's slipping. She's overbooked in my. Oh, she's the greatest woman. No, maybe in AEW. Maybe on the indies. But not in the big league. She's far from even top 5 in WWE. Oh, well, I don't get how you don't like her, but you like Stephanie and Julia. Well, there's a difference. Because Stephanie and Julia, one, to me, offer some sort of character. I don't know what Io Sky's character is. I don't. I don't know what I'm supposed to see in Io Sky other than just a wrestler. Stephanie Vaquer and Julia at least bring me some sort of charisma. But also, if Julia was facing Rhea Ripley, I would more than likely say that Julia doesn't compare to Rhea Ripley right now. Stephanie Vaquer is a reason she chose NXT, is because she had to learn the system so that she can be the next Rhea Ripley. Right? Stephanie Vaquer is fantastic. And I think she has the potential to be a top 5 wrestler in WWE in the women's division. But right now, that division, let me tell you who I think are the top 5 in women's wrestling right now in WWE. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, third place is Liv Morgan, because let's be honest, if we want to talk about the biggest growth of any wrestler over the last 2 years, it's Liv Morgan. Her character development, her professional growth, how good she's gotten in the ring. Liv Morgan's a top 3 wrestler in the women's division in WWE right now. Yeah, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, I'm putting Bayley in this list. I know people don't like Bayley, but Bayley's a workhorse, and she's good on the mic. She's good in character work. She's good on the ring. Bayley, to me, is 4th. And then number 5, this is where it gets tough. Because I'm not trying to like power rank. I'm basing this on a lot of things like character work, in-ring work, connecting to the audience. I'm gonna put Chelsea Green at 5. No, never mind. No, never mind. Tiffany Stratton. I knew I forgot somebody. Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan. I'm gonna put Tiffany at 4. Tiffany Stratton at 4. Bayley at 5. Those are the top 5 in wrestling right now. Io Sky does nothing better than those 5. You want to talk about overpushed? It is Io Sky. She's overpushed. She's always in a title picture that she doesn't necessarily need to be in. Io Sky fits better in the women's IC title picture. She's the same size. In terms of connectivity, her and Lyra, I feel, would be better. Like, why not just put Io Sky in that match? That makes that title feel important if Io Sky wins it at WrestleMania. Why does she have to win Rhea's title and ruin the Titan? Like, put her at the kids' table because that's where she belongs. Let the adults fight at WrestleMania. Saying Bianca Belair is overpushed is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. All right, this next comment doesn't really have to deal with wrestling. This next little topic, there was a post on X that I was scrolling through. It wasn't wrestling related, but it was a picture of. So let me preface this up. I come from a more conservative religious background. I'm not even afraid to say that. More conservative, more Christian religion type background. And so a lot of my X feed has to do a lot with that. And so there was a post from one of these guys on my feed. Unfortunately, there's people who are uber conservative who are, how do I say this? I think they take things a little bit too far, right? They're the extremist on the conservative, like a conservative extremist, right? Where I'll just give an example of another account who posted something saying, I don't want to see women in the public space comment, like basically saying that women can't have comments on political thing. Yeah, there's a lot of craziness that takes place on my Twitter feed. But this particular account, it posted a female at the gym. She was ripped, strong, a lot of muscle showing, right? And basically posted that there's no straight dude in the world who finds this attractive, and if you do, you're not straight. Essentially implying that if you're a straight guy, you can't like girls with muscles, or that makes you gay. And we're going to talk about this because I commented on there and said, bro, that's attractive. It is. And they're like, nah, man, you just sus. Right? And that's crazy. Crazy. And here's why I think it's crazy. Because I do think it's a bit of a double standard. Society tells us that strength, dedication, and discipline are attractive qualities. We glorify athletes, we respect people who put in work, and we act like fitness is the ultimate sign of self-respect. But the moment that a woman starts to put on muscle, suddenly dudes start panicking like their entire worldview is crumbling. Why? Because she's not soft and dainty enough for you? Like, we have this standard for men where, like, for me, if I were to say, man, I'm tired of being overweight and I'm going to go be a man, I'm going to go put in the work, and I'm going to go put on muscle, right? that would be an attractive thing. First off, it would be an attractive thing. Ultimately, that would be a healthy thing. That would be something that I think women would find attractive. Absolutely understand that. But when the tides turn and a woman does the same thing and tries to take her health into consideration, now all of a sudden, no, that's not an attractive thing, right? And then you got dudes out here, these gym bros, who live on creatine and steroids, who question other people's sexual attraction like it's some sort of existential crisis. Like, oh man, you think buff girls are hot, bro? You're gay, dog. No, bro. At some point, guys, I'm still attracted to women. Like, by definition, like, because I find athletic, toned, buff girls highly attractive. I do. I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. Liking muscle doesn't change that she's a woman and that I'm straight because she's a woman, right? Having muscle doesn't change. Like, that doesn't all of a sudden sort of like make her different. No, she's still a woman. And I've told you guys numerous times on this podcast, I'm not a physical attraction type person as my number one standard. I'm personality. I got a few other weird traits. Like I'm a voice person. Like, you need to have like a super, like you can't have like a voice like mine. Like I need like a woman's voice. But there are certain voices that are annoying. And so I'm a voice person. I'll admit, I've told you guys I'm not a physical. I don't see why there's such a big thing that men sort of hyper oogle over boobs and butts. Like I like butts. I like them. I understand why you do. But guys, the entire purpose of boobs are to feed children during nursing ages. That's literally the entire intended purpose that they're there. Is the feed offspring during nursing time. Outside of that, they offer nothing. They are literally just sacks of fat. The size shouldn't matter. Right? Butts, the same thing. Like, they're like, now here's the thing to me, because so many people say, oh, I like a big ass, and they want something that jiggles. And to me, I don't necessarily, like, if you're fat, there's a difference between fat and thick. Right? And I prefer tone over jiggle. Just to be completely honest with you, I like big butts. I cannot lie. But you gotta have it toned, like, because at some point you got a big ass, but you just fat, right? You're not. Anyway, but let's be real. The whole fear of buff woman, to me, is just insecurity. Guys who don't like buff women have this idea that a woman can't be stronger than them. It's not a reflection of her. It's a reflection of his ego. There's this idea, especially in the conservative circles that I'm in, where women just need to be housewives and they just need to cook and take care of the house and guys, they can also go to the gym and they can also work out and have social. Like, I don't understand how some people think. I'm not saying everyone has to be into understand that attraction is subjective. It is personal. But what I'm saying is, can we stop acting like it's weird or unnatural? Strength is attractive. Discipline is attractive. Confidence is attractive. So if a woman has all of that and just happens to have muscle to go along with it, why is that a negative? Why is that a negative? I don't understand these people who because I was called by several people, and here's the thing, and then I'll end this rant with this: all of the people who rant on this and who go off and call people like me gay because you like buff women or toned women, like Jade Cargill is attractive, dog, and if you don't see attractive in that, you're crazy. Jordan Grace, I don't like her face. I'll just be honest. And her smile is weird because her teeth aren't perfect. But again, I'm not trying to body shame. I just don't find Jordan Grace super attractive when she smiles. Her face is not something that I would be attracted to. But in and of herself, like, she's attractive. Bianca Belair is toned as shit. She's my number one crush in WWE right now. Right? And I don't see why people don't like that. Or why people who I don't see how people who don't like that think that because I like that makes me like, oh, you like dudes. Nah, bruh. I just find that athletic women are attractive. But I also like other non-athletic women. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't even know where I'm going with this, to be honest with you. I just had to say that, get that off of my chest. Let's talk about actual wrestling now. Let's talk about NXT. Not much happened on this episode. I'm gonna be completely honest. I felt like this was a story building week. It was one of those episodes that are supposed to lead to next week, which brings me, now that we're an hour into this podcast, to some housekeeping. There will not be a show on Tuesday. We will be watching NXT live in the casual wrestling channels Discord page. We will be live reacting and talking to in the chat there to NXT Roadblock on Tuesday. So there will not be an episode on Tuesday. I know. I'm sorry. I made y'all wait for this one, and I'm not giving you another one until next Friday. I'm sorry. I am sorry. But now this was story building to get us to next week. It was a slow episode. Not much happened, which is fine. I kind of wish Tony D versus Sean Spears happened next week instead of Jordan Grace versus Roxanne Perez. Just personally. But I like Sean Spears as champion. I do. I like Sean Spears as champion. I like the story that we got here. I'm interested to see where this goes with the D'Angelo family. So I'm interested. So my only other question is they called the title versus title match a unifying match. So I have a question with that because typically on title versus title, when both titles are up for the line, right? Like, remember when Seth Rollins won, he was Universal and US title. Like, typically so they called this a unify. Is the Women's North America Championship going away? I'm just interested on how they're going to do that. That's my question. That's the only area I'm really concerned with or confused with on this. So yeah, let's predict Roadblock though heading into Tuesday. So we got Obafemi versus Moose for the NXT Championship. I think Obafemi wins this match, or this ends in some sort of no contest disqualification and the system get involved and maybe push this match and the actual finish till Stand and Deliver. Because I think we're going to get some Stand and Deliver booking made at Roadblock. We got Fraxium versus the Hardys for the TNA Tag Team Championship. I do think Fraxium wins these titles. And I think Fraxium's going to be working TNA some, I personally believe. But I also think that this allows for them to either be at TNA's show on Tuesday or the Thursday of Mania week, or for TNA to have some of their wrestlers at Stand and Deliver to fight for these championships. Stephanie versus Julia. This will be the main event. I thoroughly believe this will be the main event. Winner takes all. I think Stephanie Vaquer wins. That's who I hope for. Like, it's hard. These are my two favorite women on the roster right now. And I knew eventually we would get to this point. However, I also think that this could end up in some sort of no contest. And the match gets pushed till stand and deliver. I think that this one I would prefer the no contest to happen and not Oba. I think Oba wins and retains his title in it, but Stephanie I have winning. I do think there could be a strong chance of a no contest in this match. And maybe we build something out towards stand and deliver, maybe like a fatal 4-way or something for Julia's title or something. Who knows, right? Javon Evans versus Ethan Page. I believe this is a street fight. I could be wrong. A New York street fight? Yeah. I think this is the end of the feud. I kind of was hoping that this match would have waited to stand and deliver. Javon Evans is winning this match. He's getting his comeuppance. The feud's going to end here. I think Javon Evans wins. And then we got Jordan Grace versus Roxanne Perez, which was thrown together. I'm going Jordan Grace. I do. That's where I'm going. All right, let's talk about Evolve. WWE Evolve debuted on Wednesday. Video on demand, which I preferred. 45-minute episode, which I liked. So some pros. The matches were good, right? But this is essentially just a bunch of matches for the first episode. It's really hard to do a debut episode of a wrestling show. Right? Because you got to really start to introduce people to characters, right? And so they did that, and you had some good matches, and you got to be introduced to some of the guys and the girls on the roster. It's really hard to, they started telling some stories, and as we progress week after week after week, I think we will get more storytelling, right? I like the idea. It's fun to be introduced to new faces, especially younger ones that are going to be the future of NXT. As an NXT fan, I really enjoyed this because it made me look, okay, this is who I think will be in NXT here, right? Some of my cons. The announce team of Pete Rosenberg and Robert Stone, going to take a while to get used to. Now, I made this post on X. Rosenberg is fine. Robert Stone being like part of the management team, though, on screen is weird to have him as an announcer. I made a post that said that I would love to see like someone like Denise Salcedo come in and be the announcer with Rosenberg. Partially because I really like Denise's work. But I also think like I don't know. Part of me just feels like she's done some NXT pre-show stuff and she was good at it. I think making her a normal part of WWE program. I know she's in the press conferences all the time. I think making her an official part of like the announce team for the show, and she would only have to go to Florida like what, once every month or so to film, because these are pre-filmed. So I don't know. I think that'd be fun if they did it that way. I can get used to Robert Stone and them. It's just gonna be a minute. It's gonna take some time to get used to them. And then in the tag team matches, because again, they did tag team matches to get more people involved. I wish each individual person or team had their own entrance. What they ended up having was like the main event was a 6-man match, 2 teams of 3, and each team came out together. I wish everyone sort of had, and I'm sure that eventually everyone will get their own entrance music and entrance. I just wish like more people had it, right? And the last thing I'll do is mention some standouts from week 1 that I liked. So we'll start with Kendall Gray. it appears that she's going to turn heel on Carly Bright, which is different than how they were on NXT TV. I'll tell you what, Kendall really stood out in her promo and her in-ring work. Carly Bright's gonna she needs some work. I think Kendall's going to surpass it, and I definitely think a heel turn would work for Kendall. So Kendall Gray stood out to me. The team known as Swipe Right. I know a lot of people on social media did not like Swipe Right, and that's Ricky Smokes and Brad Baylor. They teamed with Jackson Drake, which is a local from North Carolina. But Swipe Right, they stood out. I found that promo to be highly entertaining. The we're pleasure in out of the ring type of guys, right? And Brad Baylor was like, yeah, well, hundos, baby. The sort of like frat boy, the guys you hated in college type people. I love the gimmick. I think it's fun. I like the part of the gimmick where like, man, we matched with your girlfriends, we've matched with your wives, and we've matched with your moms. I love it. This is a creative gimmick that would have worked in the 2000s. Everyone would love it, but now all of a sudden we have like it's bro. This is a good gimmick. This is a good gimmick. I know I got Wavy D on my side here, saying he's a Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes fan. These guys are like, was the promo delivered perfectly? No. But they're 20 years old. Brad Baylor's 20 years old. Right? I like Keanu Carver, another standout. Bro is the next Obafemi in terms of he just comes out there. He has the look. He's strong. He real quick squash match. That's what squash matches are for. That's what Gunther versus Akira Tozawa should have been. I don't even remember the dude he fought and what his name was. But what I do know is that Keanu Carver stood out in my mind as someone who has a lot of potential to be a star. And then the biggest standout for me the entire night was Callie Armstrong. I've never seen her before. I've seen Keanu Carver, so I knew about him. He's been on NXT TV like once or twice, right? Callie Armstrong, I don't ever think I've seen. She showed out. She has that Bianca Belair look to me, right? We were just talking about like toned athletic women. That's what Callie Armstrong is. My only issue that I had with the match that she was in was she was the tallest one in the ring, and she was going against people who were much shorter than her, so she had to sort of like crouch a little bit in her walking when she worked with her, because she was a little bit, I don't know if I was the only one that caught on to that or not, but other than that, like she has strong, and at the end of the show she turned into the heel that she should be losing the match and then turning into a heel at the end of the show, right? Callie Armstrong's got potential in this business. All right. The last segment here, react to that. So Carmella went on a podcast, and the podcast put out like a teaser video for it. And one of Carmella's quotes was basically like she feels like she did not get re-signed because she was pregnant. And that's all I've seen. She put out a video herself saying you got to watch the whole conversation. Don't take it out of context, which I agree with. I haven't had the time to watch the whole. I don't even know if I'm going to watch because I just want to talk about that one point. Because the fact of the matter is she did make that point that she felt it was because she was pregnant. Well, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's actually talk about this for a minute. Because Alexa Bliss just debuted. She was pregnant. Quite literally on Tuesday, announcer, Kelly Kincaid literally showed up, returned after having a baby. Becky Lynch has had children and has shown back up. Valhalla's on the roster. She's had babies, missed some time. Candice LeRae, another one, right? This is the dumbest excuse. Let's just be honest, Carmella. let's just be honest. You weren't re-signed because you were no longer necessary to be on the roster. The blonde, beautiful gimmick has been taken. It's got Liv Morgan's name on it. It's got Tiffany Stratton's name on it. It's got Charlotte Flair's name on it. It's got Sol Ruka's name on it. And of those 4, you offered nothing those 4 don't offer. Carmella, I loved your work. The James Ellsworth stuff was funny. You being the first women's money, you were great. But I'm going to be honest with you. You're just not needed on the roster. The roster's too stacked. Now, I personally think Carmella coming back and fighting someone like Lyra Valkyria for the title, or Chelsea Green, which is another one that has the blonde, beautiful gimmick, right? Fighting someone like Chelsea Green for the U.S. women's U.S. title, having her work the mid-card, I think there's a place for her. But obviously WWE didn't see anything where Carmella was necessarily needed, so they let her go so that she can go do other things. I don't, again, this is one of those things. I don't understand why wrestlers get released from WWE and their first thought is to immediately trash the company. I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. Go find work. Go be Leah Vandal. Right? Go find work. You could find work somewhere. There, you are necessary on some roster. You go join AEW and you're probably better than 95% of that AEW women's roster right now. You can go join TNA and be 95% better than most of that roster in terms of name recognition, in-ring ability, mic work. Go join Enzo on the indie scene. Enzo's making bank right now. Go join Enzo. That would be a fun thing for you to do. I just don't understand why the initial response of anyone who doesn't get their contract re-signed, like Daria, Sonya Deville, she went on a podcast, right? Now, she didn't critique. She praised WWE. She thanked them for their time and the things that she learned, and she didn't seem bitter that she didn't get re-signed. I appreciate that. Why can't everyone be like that? Why must everyone always feel the need that, hey, WWE didn't re-sign me, I'm going to go blast them? That's crazy to me. You had a 12-year career in the biggest wrestling entertainment spectacle on the planet, where you were women's champion when you probably shouldn't have been. You were Money in the Bank when you probably shouldn't have been. You've never been the number one woman on the roster. Let's just be honest with the facts of the matter here. But that's all I got to say. That's what I got for you. Let me know what y'all think of this episode, of the topics we covered. Anything, leave it in the comments. Leave us a review if you're listening on audio. Leave us a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube. We thank everyone who listens and watches. I can't wait till the next episode. Remember, no episode on Tuesday. We will see you next Friday here on the Slapping Meat Wrestling Podcast.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slapping Meat Wrestling every Tuesday.